France in the late 1700s. Imagine a country shimmering with beauty and wealth, yet beneath the surface a storm brews.
I, young and well-intentioned, sat upon the throne, but my reign was marked by extravagance and indifference.
The coffers of France, once overflowing, were drained. Decades of lavish spending by the monarchy and costly wars had taken their toll. The common people of France, burdened by taxes and poverty, grew increasingly disillusioned. The French people were divided into three distinct social classes known as estates. The first estate, comprised of the clergy, enjoyed immense wealth and privilege. The second estate, the nobility, mirrored this lifestyle, exempt from most taxes and holding vast lands. Together, these two estates made up a tiny fraction of the population, yet they held a disproportionate amount of power and wealth. The third estate, by far the largest, encompassed everyone else. From peasants toiling in the fields to wealthy merchants in the cities, they bore the brunt of France's financial woes. Resentment towards the inequalities of the system festered. The stage was set for a revolution. French society, in the years leading up to 1789, was a rigid hierarchy. At the top sat the first estate, the clergy. They numbered around 130,000 and enjoyed vast wealth and privilege. Exempt from most taxes, they collected tithes from the peasantry and owned about 10% of the land. Their lavish lifestyle, a stark contrast to the poverty of the masses, further fueled resentment. Next came the second estate, the nobility, comprising about 350,000 individuals. Like the clergy, they were exempt from most taxes and held many key positions in the government and military. Their wealth stemmed from their vast landholdings and the feudal dues they extracted from the peasants. They lived in opulent chateaux and maintained a lifestyle of extravagance.
We, the Third Estate, a stark contrast, encompassed everyone else, about 98% of the population. This vast group included peasants, artisans, merchants, lawyers, and other professionals. Within the Third Estate existed a wide economic disparity. Wealthy merchants enjoyed comfortable lives, while urban workers and peasants struggled to survive. We, the peasants, the backbone of France, bore the brunt of the tax burden. The Third Estate, burdened and ignored for far too long, yearned for change.
By 1788, France teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Years of extravagant spending by the monarchy and costly wars, particularly the American Revolutionary War, had depleted the treasury. Faced with this crisis, King Louis XVI was forced to act. His advisors proposed taxing the nobility and clergy, a move met with fierce resistance. With no other option, Louis XVI made the fateful decision to convene the Estates General. This advisory body, comprised of representatives from all three estates, had not been summoned in over 175 years. The announcement in July 1788 sparked a wave of excitement and hope across France. Finally, it seemed, the grievances of the people would be heard. Elections for the Estates General were held in the winter of 1788 to 1789. Representatives from the Third Estate, many of them lawyers and professionals, were determined to bring about change. They carried with them thousands of cahiers de doléances, notebooks filled with grievances and demands from the people they represented.
The Estates General convened in May 1789 at Versailles. However, the hopes for meaningful reform were quickly dashed. The stage was set for a showdown.
The Estates General, meant to address France's woes, became a battleground. The Third Estate, frustrated by the voting system and the intransigence of the privileged orders, took a bold step.
On June 17, 1789, they declared themselves the National Assembly, the true representatives of the French people. This act of defiance sent shockwaves through France.
The Third Estate, no longer content with begging for crumbs, had seized the initiative. Locked out of their meeting hall by royal decree, they gathered on June 20th in a nearby indoor tennis court.
There, they swore a solemn oath, the tennis court oath, vowing not to disband until France had a constitution. This oath was a turning point. It marked the birth of a new France, one based on the principles of popular sovereignty and representative government.
The Third Estate, emboldened by the support of the people, had drawn a line in the sand. The king, caught between his desire to maintain order and the growing power of the National Assembly, hesitated.
News of the tennis court oath spread like wildfire throughout France. People from all walks of life, inspired by the courage of the National Assembly, rose up in support. In villages and towns, citizens formed militias. The revolution had moved beyond the halls of Versailles and into the streets.
The summer of 1789 was a time of great tension and uncertainty in Paris. Rumours of royal troops massing outside the city, coupled with food shortages and soaring prices, created a climate of fear and anger.
The king's dismissal of his finance minister, Jacques Necker, a popular figure who sympathised with the Third Estate, further inflamed the situation.
On July 14th, 1789, fueled by fear and rage, a Parisian mob stormed the Bastille, a formidable fortress that symbolised royal tyranny. The Bastille held only a handful of prisoners, but its fall resonated deeply. It was a spontaneous uprising, a visceral expression of the people's will.
The capture of the Bastille was a turning point in the French Revolution. It demonstrated the power of the people, their willingness to fight for their rights. It shattered the aura of invincibility that had surrounded the monarchy.
The king, realizing the gravity of the situation, withdrew his troops from Paris and recalled Necker. The storming of the Bastille, forever etched in history as Bastille Day, became a symbol of the French Revolution. It inspired revolutionaries across Europe and beyond, a testament to the power of ordinary people to overthrow tyranny. The events of July 14th sent a clear message. The old order was crumbling and a new era was dawning. In the wake of the Bastille's fall, the National Assembly worked feverishly to dismantle the old order and create a new France. On August 4th, 1789, in a momentous session, they abolished feudalism and renounced their privileges. This act, driven by idealism and a desire for equality, swept away centuries of tradition.
It marked the end of an era and the birth of a new society based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. To enshrine these principles, the Assembly adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen.
This document, inspired by the Enlightenment ideals of Locke and Rousseau, proclaimed the fundamental rights of all men. It declared that men are born and remain free and equal in rights. It guaranteed liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. It asserted the sovereignty of the people and their right to participate in government.
The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was a revolutionary document, a beacon of hope for oppressed people everywhere. It became a cornerstone of modern democracy, influencing constitutions and movements for human rights around the world. The adoption of the Declaration was a triumph for the National Assembly and for the principles of the French Revolution.
The summer of 1789 had witnessed a seismic shift in power. Yet France remained a constitutional monarchy, with Louis XVI still on the throne. However, his authority, already weakened, was further undermined by his actions.
His reluctance to embrace reforms, coupled with rumors of court intrigue and attempts to flee the country, fueled suspicion and anger.
Meanwhile, the revolution continued its relentless march. The National Assembly, influenced by radical voices like Robespierre and Marat, abolished feudalism and confiscated church lands. These actions, while aimed at addressing the country's financial woes and consolidating power, alienated powerful segments of society.
In October 1789, a crowd of Parisian women, angered by bread shortages and rumors of royal extravagance, marched to Versailles. They forced the royal family to return to Paris, effectively holding them hostage in the Tuileries Palace.
This event, known as the Women's March on Versailles, highlighted the growing power of the Parisian mob and the precarious position of the monarchy. The king's attempt to flee France in June 1791, the ill-fated flight to Varennes, proved disastrous. His capture and forced return to Paris further eroded public trust. The monarchy, once seemingly invincible, was teetering on the brink.